Welcome to this new episode of the Corporate Treasury 101 podcast. This is the first part of our episode with the thought leader group of TIS, the Treasury Intelligence Solutions. This group is composed of Joerg Wiemer, John Paquette, and Nicolas Christiaen. Joerg was the former head of Treasury at SAP before he founded TIS, went through the position of CEO, and is now the Chief Strategy Officer. John is a vice president at TIS and thrives on the US markets. And Nicolas founded CashForce, the cash flow forecasting tool that you may have heard of. CashForce was purchased by TIS in June 2022, and since then, Nicolas is their Chief Communication Officer. In the episode of today, expect to learn the ins and outs of the growing influence of treasurers and their role for 2023. The impact of uncertainty on the coming year's strategy, the upskilling by companies of data science and management skills, why the war of talents is more of a topic than ever before, and much more. It was, again, amazing to interview Joerg, John, and Nicolas, and we are extremely grateful for the opportunity. We hope you enjoyed the episode as much as Husam and I did, animating this panel discussion. If that is the case, well, the best way of showing it to us is to rate us, with a good grade, of course, on your favorite podcast app. It only takes 10 seconds and truly helps the podcast, allowing us to invite more and more amazing guests. With all that being said, please welcome Joerg, John, and Nicolas.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Joerg, we see a trend lately as the Treasury strategic influence grows. Is it correct, and are treasurers correct in their perception that Treasury is becoming more and more strategic? And whether it is a yes or no question, why so? And maybe looking at you first, Joerg, what's your view on that?
Yeah, thank you for asking this question. That indeed, Treasury is becoming more strategic. This is obvious, and the treasurer itself, he wants to position the team as a thought leader and a business partner, strategic advisor to the C-level. This is because when the going gets tough, the treasury team is always in the spotlight. So I worked as a treasurer before I started TIS 12 years ago. And in my former role as head of treasury, during the financial crisis, the CFO knocked on my office door almost on a daily basis. Why? Well, cash position is mission critical. Cash forecast is a big topic. And in a nutshell, data is the new gold from a treasury perspective, and data makes a treasurer a strategic business partner. The treasurer is sitting on a gold mine. This is the cash flow data. Cash flow, that tells you the truth, right? Cash flow is real time. Cash flow is the kind of lifeblood of a company. Accounting is an opinion maybe from yesterday, best case. So it makes a lot of sense to collect data, to structure the data, to analyze this data, and then to transfer this data into actionable data, not only to reduce currency risk or to increase the yields optimization. This data can be used also to earn money, to convert a treasury team into a business partner, or convert the cost center treasury into a profit center. How could that work? Well, think about virtual cards, which could use and where you simply leverage the data. So my recommendation is to all these treasurers, let's try to become more strategic. Yes, try to acquire this data, to orchestrate this data and convert this data into actionable data, and best case, earn money out of this.
Okay, so treasurers are a little bit the custodians of cash and data related to cash, and that makes them a person of contact for the CFOs and the strategic decisions driven. Super clear.
Correct. Anything to add, colleagues? John, maybe as a former treasurer.
Yeah, I mean, I think you made a lot of really good points, Joerg, but I'm definitely seeing a trend towards Treasury becoming less siloed, to your point.
Yeah.
It's no longer Treasury's downloading these reports. They can put together their cash position and do their reconciliation and sort of operating within this silo. Those
No ivory tower anymore.
Yeah, those that have done a good job with technology investments are definitely realizing that they have an opportunity to be a strategic partner to the business, both in sharing that data and in analyzing that data and sharing the insights, So I think Treasury's in a unique position where they might see things a little bit earlier than the rest of the business because they see when it impacts cash. So that's immediate, right? So they might notice things like, an increasing DSO a lot earlier than, the AR department might, and they can be a good business partner from that perspective and sharing those insights and saying, hey, something's wrong here. It's worth a closer look. And depending how good that analysis is, they can even probably provide really good strategic recommendations to the business on how to improve some of those operations.
Yeah. And maybe if I want to add, when you talk about these insights, more today than ever before, due to the macroeconomical situation, due to the COVID crisis we had, ultimately insights are critical to decision-making or fast decision-making. And today we're just confronted with top levels of organization, management levels, C-levels that are really required to make quicker, faster decisions, but also decisions that will ultimately change dramatically sometimes the course of the enterprises. And without good insights, without good data from the Treasury, and that's where Treasury becomes a lot more strategic, that's actually impossible. And this is just a new role that since a couple of years, treasurers have been playing very close to the management and C-level team of organizations.
So you touched on a good point there. Going into the economic environment that we are right now in 2023, right? How do you see that playing out into the economic turmoil most companies are going to go into over the next few months or years?
Yeah, I can just quick quote, I guess the obvious is the word of uncertainty is a word that will be just baked in everybody's strategy. So when you think about, let's define a strategy for 2023, 2024, 2025, let's say there's so much uncertainty around so much of the macroeconomic environment, but also just the variables which are potentially impacting your business, be it currencies, be it supply chains, be it customers and vendors in certain areas in the world that are potentially in, I would say, the trade war, either in an actual war. There's so many variables that are unknown that creates a lot of uncertainty, and these uncertainty have to be big. So the uncertainty factors have to be built into scenarios, like scenario planning. And when you think about scenario planning, this is all what let's say C-levels are doing today. Really trying to think in scenario one, we have these variables. In scenario two, we have these, etc. And let's say then navigating and using the scenarios going into the actual 2023 year and navigating between those scenarios, seeing which scenario is actually going to play out or less is going to be really key. I would say that's on a more general level. When I would need to comment on what's actually going to happen, I don't know. It's really very uncertain.
Super clear. And so linking back this uncertainty and those scenarios, you will need obviously data, right, to build them. Also linking back to what Joerg said earlier about cash management and data management. Maybe looking at you, John, here, cash management has been a core treasury function for a long time now. So why are cash management skill sets still at the top of the priorities list for treasury and treasury departments?
Yeah, I think there's probably three key reasons, and we kind of already touched on one here in terms of the economic uncertainty, right? Sort of the looming sort of economic downturn / possible recession, rising borrowing costs. All these factors are naturally going to put more emphasis on cash management and what a company is doing with its cash on a day-to-day basis. And then the second is probably technology. I mean, cash management is kind of undergoing somewhat of a transformation as things like, open banking APIs and things like that start to come into focus, AI and machine learning. So fundamentally started changing the way treasurers can manage cash on a day-to-day basis, really. And there's been a big focus on real-time cash management, right? And companies really want to understand the benefits of adopting a real-time cash management, how they can be sort of more strategic from that perspective. And I think the third is, maybe echoing back to the point we made at the beginning here about Treasury trying to become more strategic, or actually, sort of becoming more strategic. They're no longer just generating reports. It's not, hey, let's download the cash position here. Let's create the cash position. Let's look at the weekly weekly outlook here and just sort of report this out to the organization. They're actually using it as the blueprint for how to manage cash on a day-to-day basis. And there's a lot of different tools at their disposal that they can use now that weren't available before to allow them to better manage cash, really to make sure that they're optimizing the use of idle cash, or they're finding creative solutions for cash shortfalls. So something that comes to mind is supply chain financing arrangements, where treasurers can look and say, okay, I have excess cash here. Do I want to take advantage of some early pay discounts as sort of a mechanism to optimize yield more so than I could through a short-term cash investment product, right? Or do I want to pull in some early pay discounts from my own customers to, kind of increase my cash position in the near term as an alternative to going out and drawing on my revolver, right? So they're trying to marry, I think, all these concepts together, and people are recognizing it takes a different degree of cash management skill to be able to do that these days.
Okay, so a lot linked to treasury technologies. Nicolas, something you would like to add on that? Or what's your view regarding cash management and the data and technology embedded to it?
Being analytical savvy is super, super important. And we cannot count only on, let's say, backgrounds like engineers. We need to really also retrain or train the persons in Treasury to let them be, I would say, analyzers of data, and all the way from top to bottom. So I think this is certainly something. It's like a little bit of a gap sometimes that we see across different Treasury teams, and this gap will have to be closed in the near term, basically, for a lot of Treasury teams to become really operationally efficient with the data they have under their belt.
That's really interesting, because you mentioned that. I mean, we're having this gold rush of data, right? And people are going to have to get with the times to be able to take advantage of that. Joerg, bringing you back into the discussion as well, have you seen any good examples of companies upskilling their organization like that? And if so, or if not, how should companies go about, or individual treasurers go about upskilling, and what skills would you prioritize for them to develop to harness all of this?
Yeah, probably as one important point next to technology, and this is these are the people. At the end, your success as the treasurer is linked to the quality of the team, and there is a war for talent. This is obvious. It's really difficult to find talents and to motivate those. And what you should be able to offer as an employer, especially as a treasurer, state-of-the-art technology in your treasury team. Nobody wants to, as a junior treasury analyst, and nobody wants to deal with complex spreadsheet, collecting data from all the subsidiaries to finally consolidate it through Excel and then present a cash forecast, which is outdated already. So long story short, you need to be able as an employer to be attractive, to offer state-of-the-art technology, and to allow those colleagues to streamline and automate processes. That the daily stupid cash management process can be highly automated, and this frees up resources, allows your colleagues to focus more on those strategic topics. And this is fun, and at the end leads to, in a nutshell, to that strategic influence of the treasurer. So war for talents and technology.
That's really interesting. We did a podcast series with a good friend of the podcast, Mike Richards, a while back. He owns the Treasury recruitment company. And his point was also that two things. One is that treasury systems are becoming more intelligent. So the people that come into treasury organizations aren't just doing, data entry anymore. We're automating all this. People need to be able to make sense of that data and drive value out of it.
Yes.
Right. And the other thing he said was the way that the market is going overall from a talent pool point of view is that, maybe employers don't have as much of the market as much now, and it's more coming to the employee where they have more choice. So they're going to go to the organization that's technologically advanced, where they can add value and innovate and drive business decisions for it as opposed to just data entry. Nicolas, you seem to be agreeing with that a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Referring also to your previous question, you said like, do you have any good examples? And, one of our clients, like for example, Kellogg's, who recently won different awards with sort of best technology solutions, best cash forecasting initiatives. I think they're a great example of a company where I think the lead treasury person, the lead treasurer ultimately is very tech savvy, and basically this vision of embracing technology, maybe even testing technology that, let's say, has not been tested before, and let's say where she or he is the first mover, but having that vision or having that way of thinking is indeed something that is quite appealing for new people that enter the treasury area. And they say, look, I'm looking forward to an exciting opportunity where I can go outside of my comfort zone, or where people are allowed to go outside of that comfort zone, and where people are being challenged by new technology on a day-to-day basis. And I think having a leader in the treasury team, like with Kellogg's, that is very much embracing that technology, it works actually really, how do you say that, contagious for the rest of the team. And you see also, I would say, very happy co-working or happy colleagues basically across that team. And most of the time, happy colleagues then generate also more successes, as you will have read from the Kellogg's case studies.